It's a beautiful morning to you today. It's Monday, 23rd of February, 2026. And you're welcome to Daybreak Live, where the headlines are not just reported, but examined, and the issues shaping Nigeria are brought into clear focus. I'm Manolo Akpo Ido.
And I am Samson Balogun. We begin this morning with mounting concerns over the deepening electricity crisis in the Nigeria's southeast region. The Southeast Electricity Consumers Association is warning that the region is losing billions of naira in economic value and is urging the state governments to act decisively on power generation. It's a development that raises broader questions about energy equity, regional growth, and responsibility within Nigeria's power architecture.
Right, and after that, we'll bring you the weather reports, helping you plan your day across the country, followed by Daybreak News with major national and international stories shaping the morning.
Then it's our newspaper headlines and analysis segment, where we go beyond the front pages to unpack the narratives and implications behind today's biggest stories. Joining us is Emmanuel Abiola Oladile, an entrepreneur and public affairs analyst. And
for our big story, we will examine the growing influence of digital discourse on democratic perception, social media versus reality, how digital reactions shaped the Nigerian election narrative. And in an era where online statements can amplify, distort, or redefine political events, we ask the question, how much of today's electoral understanding is shaped by facts and how much by digital momentum?
To explore these, we will be joined by Honorable Malaja Olawi, a public affairs analyst who will help us interrogate the intersections of media, politics, and public perception in Nigeria's evolving information space.
And as always, we round off with Trend Watch, tracking the conversations shaping public discourse across social and civic platforms today.
This is Daybreak Live, right here on Dominion Television.
So please stay with us this morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Samson. This Monday morning.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And everyone is back to normalcy, right? And, you know, probably we could say everyone has been restored to factory settings.
I mean, sometimes it's very important that we come back to that.
And sometimes difficult to do.
It
but
is.
Then the moment the day breaks on a Monday morning, I mean, you do not have a choice now to go back to the usual settings.
Absolutely.
And there we are now. The headlines are not slowing down.
Of course.
And Sika is actually, you know, talking to Southeast governors as regards what the state could actually be missing, or what they could have actually gained within a period of time, and how much they are losing when it comes to power generation in the country. And that, for me, is an issue that every region, every state should look into. The moment power generation was unbundled by the last administration, that was President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, that gave state governors the right and opportunities to tap into power generation, and of course they could also venture into that. That could be another source of income for state governors. If you have a power generating plant and then it is connected to the national grid, you have actually boosted what we currently have in the country, and that, for me, is a source of income. But unfortunately, most governors are not looking in this direction. I think that was 2 years ago, the Oyo State government also talked about power generation and what this could mean for Oyo State. It could be a massive turnaround when it comes to electricity generation and take some places in Oyo State out of darkness. But unfortunately, most governors probably, you know, took their legs off the pedal, and you know, they are just not talking about it anymore. But then some people in the Southeast have come together to say, look, this is the gold mine at this time. Let's focus on that.
Yeah, I think I'll start by saying that, for example, two of the states in the Southeast, particularly Imo and Anambra, particularly, they are listed as one of the 10, they are listed as top 10 states that are, you know, rich in the country. But I will not go into the details of that. But just to maybe put it to bear that, of course, we know about 5 states makes up the Southeast,
right.
And it's very important to understand what impacts they play, especially with the GDP, to the GDP in the country Nigeria. And I was trying to do a bit of checking, and I discovered based on on the 2024 estimate that the southeast region particularly has an estimated regional GDP of 31.6 trillion naira. And that's whooping. That's something to really think about. And if you, of course, even if you've never been to Aba, everybody talks about Aba. Aba is an economic hub that is very important to everybody in this country. Right. Even beyond, to take products from Aba to export to other places. That's how important Aba particularly is. And Aba, of course, we know is in Abia. So Abia, Anambra, Owe, Imo, and then Enugu and Ebonyi as well. They are part of the southeast. And if you think about these states and how much they generate, you might think it's very important that yes, electricity should reach them. Like they say, let it also be their own thing to also enjoy. Why? Because if we have to talk about entrepreneurship in the country, particularly southeast region, is nothing to move behind. It's nothing to draw back. It's nothing to forget, because they are really doing so much when it comes to production or productivity, as it were. So if Nigeria is going to move from a consuming country to a producing country, then it must take some places seriously. No disregard, no disrespect to every other place, but of essence and of priority should be these places, Southeast particularly, the business capital. The business activity that you can imagine that is coming from there is massive. So I think it's important and we've always said, and it's very important that we also restate and keep reiterating that it's very important that we place our priority on places that are giving us dividends, that are bringing something to the table, like we used to say. And I would also like to mention that if we want to talk about any country or any business doing well, there's no way you will not talk about electricity. Right. Electricity is at the heart of every business in every sense. So even a micro, small, medium enterprise will depend largely on electricity. And how much of that can they generate themselves? Because you have to talk about generation. If states now move into generating electricity themselves, like power themselves, I think it makes sense. But while we are still working towards that, let us understand that it might be difficult for this small, medium, and micro economy or micro establishment to generate power themselves. So they might still need to depend largely on the state or on the federal government. So that's why I think Sika is coming out to say, you know what, we are losing so much. And not to forget that just recently, normalcy was restored to Onitsha market, the main market, somewhere very busy. If you have to talk about economics, business, and all of that, it's very busy. And all of a sudden, for about 5 years or so, there's been alteration, there's been a discontinuance of productivity in that sector. And you want to ask the question, how is that? But now the governor, Soludo, has been able to put an end to that. Now people are going back to markets in Onitsha main market on Mondays particularly. And it makes so much sense to see that, because they've estimated about 9 billion naira was lost maybe every month or so because that place was not opening on Mondays, and sit-at-home order that we know, affected it so much. And now we are seeing improvement in that. So if you see improvement in that, let us also have improvement in the electricity sector, in the power sector for them. Okay, so let's discuss now. I did my bit of, so I said that they have a regional estimate of about 31.6 trillion naira to GDP. And now imagine electricity is doing well. Imagine electricity is stable, power is stable.
That would mean more for them.
In fact, you might want to imagine how much of money would come to the coffers of the federal government through that. So if I know that some people are benefiting from the ills of the society, the ills of electricity not being,
we are saying in the electricity.
So some people are really getting, I don't want to mention the names of the generating plants and all of those things, generators and all of that into the country, and they will not want this to work. But if we really want to work in Nigeria and make things better, I think we need to focus more on electricity.
Well, you are right. When you talk about electricity and what Sika is saying to Southeast governors, I think that was born out of the fact that when you look at development and some other things, especially electricity, the Southeast seem to be a little bit, at the back. In terms of development that has to do with electricity, they are not really there. And I will take you through the statistics and key state regions with most electricity generation capacity in the country. Lagos ranks first. And most importantly, power stations, Egbe Tama Power Station, Nigeria's largest generating plant, is about 1,320 megawatts installed capacity. It's a major source of electricity grid in the country. And of course, when you go to Niger State, you have It has 3 major hydroelectric stations. That includes Kanji Power Station, includes Jeba Power Station, Shiroro Power Station that generates about 600 megawatts capacity. And these hydropower plants are some of the biggest contributors outside gas power stations in the country, which Dangote also is now a major contributor because of the plant in Lagos. That takes Lagos further when it comes to the pecking order in power generation in the country. And again, third on the list is River State. It is home to several gas plants, including part of Afam Power Complex and other units contributing significantly to generation in the south. Of all these things I've mentioned, I've not mentioned anywhere in the southeast, but I've talked about North Central, I've talked about the southwest, I've talked about the south-south. And when you talk about the fourth, which is the last I'm going to touch, is Delta. Delta hosts multiple facilities such as Delta, Sapele, and Okwai General Generating Stations, collectively big contributors to the national output. All 4 mentioned major power plants in the country, none of them is in the southeast. That shows how much of this thoughts they have had in terms of development and how backward it is, and why some people are seeing it at this time and say, this is a major setback for the southeast. What exactly are you doing as governors? Electricity sector has been unbundled. That is why we have the NEC, we have generating companies, we have distribution companies, we have transmission companies. All that was done away from the era of NEPA that we used to have, National Electric Power Authority, we used to have back in the 90s and way before then. So it tells you that this is a gold mine that most governors are not looking to. Now, that takes us away from the other plan states with power plants. These states host 1 or more generating stations that feed into the national grid. Kogi State, that is Geregu Power Plant. We have Edo State, what is Yobo Power and others, which means it's not one. Akwa Ibom State also has one. Ondo, Cross River. Again, no state in the southeast is on this list. It tells you, it tells you how backward that region is. And you see, some people might not really want to listen to this, but it's the basic truth. If you are saying, this is the southeast, we want to leave, we want Biafra, right? It's usually not a conversation most people want to have. But what are you going to meet when you finally have that Biafra? What's the development that you have? Yes, you might say, we have one of the largest economic hub in the country. Yes, is that enough?
Well, I wouldn't. I would hold no brief for the southeast, but I would also say that while I love the way you've brought the data to express the regions that are generating more, but I think it's also dependent on the geographical landscape in terms of if you don't have a water body that is large, that is like that you can dam.
That is when
it might be difficult.
That is when we talk about hydroelectric. That is generated with water. How about gas?
Well, maybe
everyone is talking about gas.
That's why
talking about gas.
That's why SECA is asking them to do something about the state government to do. Okay, we do not have a water body or water bodies that would really encourage the generating.
And if you are not talking about gas, some people are already investing in solar. You have everything it takes to do it, unless if there's no political will. That is what SECA is saying.
But just to maybe just to put up an argument for the Southeast community, if they want to go, I'm so sure they must have thought about how to really sustain, how to live, how to be viable as
I
a
disagree.
region. Well, you might disagree, but they agree because they must have. I'm not sure they just woke up and say, "Okay, let's go and kill ourselves."
Have you ever been in that situation where you want something so bad, and the moment you get it, you are still not satisfied?
Well,
and
let
you
them
feel like,
see, someone say,
what was I even fighting
just the same way someone would say that when you get married. And you now understand what is behind 6 that is more than 7. But you say, Baba, let me marry first. Whatever you say does not matter. At least let me first get. So maybe they want a taste of it.
You want to get the experience first.
Well, like some people don't mind.
You want to learn with your own story.
But no disrespect. Really maybe let's put it on the larger scale. There are many countries who don't have natural resources. We don't have resources as much as Nigeria, but they are doing fine. Really fine. Singapore, I can go on and mention a lot. And they are doing excellent work. They do not have those resources that you might say, would help them. But what they have is what they use, right? If the Southeast says we have economic discipline, or if so, economic hub is really great. We are one of the 10 productive states in the country, and we want to leverage this. It's something to leverage. They don't need to have all of those things, like the power generating dams and all of that. They can look for other ways. Maybe that's one of the, perhaps they've even heard you and say, oh, you know what we want to do? We want to generate through gas, we want to generate through every other means that you're saying, solar, for example. So they will not need to have problems with the generating body that is coming from the federal level. Perhaps that's the argument to say, oh, whatever the case is, let us have this so we can also now look at ways to, because of course, when you discover, when Nigeria was amalgamated in 1940, it wasn't as though everything was perfect. There were many things we did not even discover as at that time, even to 1960 and all of that. We did not discover a lot of things until recently. Oh, we have this, so we can make the use of this and all of that. So probably the argument will be for them to say, okay, whatever the case is, let us first split. So when we get to this place, we now think of how to now better our chances or better our lives and sustain as a state, as a region. Perhaps that's the argument.
Well, with clear understanding of what Seka is saying, you would want to argue that there's a lot to be done, not just in the Southeast, but other states too.
Absolutely.
If we're all doing enough, I think by now, nowhere in Nigeria should be complaining about lack of electricity. Some people even have a term that they are paying for darkness. I mean, that tells you how disappointed Nigerians are in the current setup in the country. And you see, I still want to go back in history, right? Under the Olusegun Obasanjo administration at that time, and he realized that NEPA was having too much stronghold on electricity in the country. I mean, there was a monopoly. So he decided to unbundle that, created PACN as a holding company to hold on to NEPA until full privatization. And when that was done, right, NEPA was unbundled, and then we had generation, transmission, distribution, and billing, right? And that was there was also an independent regulatory body, which was NEC, which I mentioned the other time. But unfortunately, some people still did not really understand what that was all about. Probably during privatization, errors were committed, and in other countries too. Germany, for example, power was unbundled. Now they have more than enough. In fact, they supply some other European countries. There was a time I was talking to a friend who lives in Germany and said, look, there was so much electricity that they had to get rebates to use electricity. I mean, we are paying, there was tax return. We'll pay you to use because we have more than enough. And it's so funny that at a point when other countries are looking away from, a certain source of power, Nigeria still seems like they want to invest in it. And that is when, I think that was under Goodluck Jonathan administration, they were looking at going back to what the likes of Germany they're already looking away from, which for me, that was more or less like a reactor kind of power generation. But unfortunately, some people stood against and said, do you know how dangerous this could be, especially for a country like Nigeria where we don't think about tomorrow. We think about the now. And what if there are things we are not looking at now that eventually becomes a problem for us tomorrow? So one way or the other depended, that kind of move. And as it stands, Aso Rock, for example, is about to take it away from the national grid. They are going fully solar. So if the president is no longer on the national grid, tell me how he wants to know there is no power in the country. That is one. Two, we have a minister of power, which some people have accused of going about with power bank. That is talking about Adebayo Adelabu, who unfortunately is from Oyo State, and he has gotten a lot of blames for what is going on in the country. But I don't want to blame Bayo Adelabu. I want to blame past administrations, right? If the PDP administration spent $16 billion on power, and someone still tells me in Nigeria that we don't have adequate power supply, then there's a problem. Someone should be probed. The Olusegun Obasanjo administration should be probed for where those monies went into. Right. There was a Siemens agreement signed by other administrations, which is currently being resuscitated and resurrected by this administration. Right? Let's sign a deal with foreign investors. If you cannot do it, let others do it. And we have seen some concessions going on in the country where build, run it, and after some time, we take it back from you. Can we also look into that direction when it comes to electricity in the country? I think that is an area President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should look at. If privatization in the country, I mean, you sold power generation companies to people who are so much interested in importing generators. So where exactly do you think we are going to be when it comes to power generation and distribution in the country? It's a big question mark that is, hanging around the neck of this administration. Yes, we know You did not cause these problems. When it comes to national grid collapse, it has been there since time immemorial. What can you do in 4 years to make sure that at least if we are not there, we know we are on the way there? That is the big question. And I think Bayadela Bush should come out more and tell us what exactly he's doing. Some people have blamed him for the band A, band B, band C. It did not start with Bayo Adelabu. It has always been there. The only thing is nobody made noise about it. Will you tell me that in some areas they don't have 4 hours power supply, some don't have 8, some don't have 16, some don't have 24? It has always been there. The only problem he had was come out to say, oh, we are going to have Bandeo, we are going to have, which was already in existence. To be different. Yeah. It has always been there. But then he should come out more and explain to us what exactly he's doing as power minister, for crying out loud.
I think just lastly, I think we need to have a vision for electricity or for power generating in the country, or generation as it were. Because if we have a view to say, oh, this is what we want to do, come 50 years, Nigeria should be stable. I think that makes a lot of sense. Instead of having just 4 years
that's
another 10 years, we are trying.
If you are saying 15, 20 years, let me ask you a question. What happened to Vision 2020?
Well, we can always have visions. Even if it doesn't come true, at least we had something to plan and to work with.
Okay, the next vision now is to talk about weather reports on this show this morning.
Yes.
Whether the government likes it or not, we'll talk about weather report, and we'll talk about issues that bothers average Nigerians out there. And we'll be starting with the ancient city of Ibadan. What does the weather look like in Ibadan this morning? It feels like 31 degrees Celsius, quite fair. And later in the morning, it will drop to 30 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy. Humidity expected to be at 1%. And there will be a sharp increase to 36 degrees Celsius in the afternoon, partly cloudy. And of course, by evening, the weather will be clear and drop to 29, a drastic drop to 29 degrees Celsius. Humidity is expected to be 5%. And it will drop further to 26 degrees Celsius overnight. And the weather is expected to be mostly cloudy, humidity at 10% right here in Ibadan today.
And also far from Ibadan, now to Lagos, where the weather is fair, averagely. Of course, in the morning it starts with 29 degrees Celsius. It will be partly cloudy with 11% humidity right there in Lagos today. Of course, afternoon, it rises to 32 degrees Celsius in the afternoon. It's expected to be mostly cloudy as well. It remains mostly clear in the evening when it drops drastically to 29 degrees Celsius, and overnight it drops also by 1 degree Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius, and it will become partly cloudy at 12% humidity in Lagos State.
All right, moving on from Lagos State, let's go to Ekiti State this morning. What does the weather look like in Ekiti? Right now in Ekiti South, weather currently looks like 23 degrees Celsius, and later in the morning it will be mostly sunny and rise to 29 degrees Celsius in Ekiti. And by afternoon it will rise further to 35 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, humidity at 2%. And by evening, the weather will be clear, 26 degrees Celsius, humidity at 2%, while overnight it will be cloudy, 20 degrees Celsius, humidity expected to be at 10% right there in Ekiti today.
And it's still in southwest Oshogbo, Osun State is where I land at 24 degrees Celsius. Expected to be partly cloudy across board today in the Oshogbo, Osun State. And later in the morning, it rises by 5 degrees Celsius to 29 degrees Celsius. Expected to be mostly sunny at 1% humidity, which shows that, of course, it's going to be dry or maybe drier. Later in the afternoon at 36 degrees Celsius, it will remain partly cloudy at 0% humidity level. And of course, later in the evening, 27 degrees Celsius is what it drops to significantly, and it's now become mostly clear at 4% humidity. And overnight, it drops by 3 degrees Celsius also to become 24 degrees Celsius, to be very cloudy in Oshogbo today.
All right, still in the southwest this morning, we'll take this one from Abeokuta, and weather in Abeokuta as we speak currently feels like 26 degrees Celsius. Later in the morning it will rise further to 30 degrees Celsius, and by afternoon it will rise further to 36 degrees Celsius with the weather expected to be mostly sunny. It will be clear in the evening, and there will be a drastic drop to 29 degrees Celsius just like in Ibadan. And humidity will be at 4%, and by overnight, okay, it will drop to 26 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, humidity at 8% right there in Abeokuta.
And a quick drive from Abeokuta now to Niger State, the largest state in the country. That's in Suleja particularly. There's haze for pilots who will be flying today at 23 degrees Celsius across board. And later in the morning, there's a sharp rise to 32 degrees Celsius. It's going to be mostly sunny in Suleja, in that part of the country. And it rises much further to 37 degrees Celsius in the afternoon. It will become very sunny as well, with 0% humidity, so everything's going to be dry in Suleja today. And in the evening, there's a sharp drop from 37 degrees Celsius to 28 degrees Celsius, and then the weather will become very clear. It will remain clear overnight as well, dropping by 3 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius overnight in Suleja, Niger State today.
All right, we'll take this one from Benue State, and that's Makurdi. Weather currently feels like 25 degrees Celsius in Benue as we speak, and later in the morning it will rise to 32 degrees Celsius with the weather expected to be partly cloudy, and it will rise to 38 degrees Celsius, mostly sunny in the afternoon, and by evening there will be a sharp drop to 29 degrees Celsius, and it's expected to be clear right there in Benue State, and overnight to be mostly clear at 24 degrees Celsius in Benue, Makurdi today.
And to the Federal Capital Territory in Abuja today, the weather will be fair across board. Of course, it will be, yes, with haze, of course. And later in the morning, there's a sharp rise to 31 degrees Celsius today in Abuja. And of course, it's going to be mostly sunny across board. Later in the afternoon, there's a drop, there's an increase, about 5 degrees Celsius, and the weather will become very sunny right there in Abuja. And evening, it will drop also to 28 degrees Celsius, and then the weather will become clear. It remains clear at 25 degrees Celsius overnight as well in the Federal Capital Territory today, Abuja.
All right, we'll take this one from the southeast, and that is talking about Enugu. This morning, weather in Enugu East, currently feels like 25 degrees Celsius right there. It will be partly cloudy later in the morning and rise to 30 degrees Celsius, and of course humidity at 4%. And there will be a further rise to 36 degrees Celsius, while the weather is mostly sunny in the afternoon. And by evening, it will drop to 29 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, humidity at 1%, and overnight it will drop to 25 degrees Celsius, cloudy right there in Enugu State today.
And from Enugu now to Kano Municipal, Kano State is going to be fair at 16 degrees Celsius across board. And in the morning, it starts with 24 degrees Celsius, going to be very sunny. It remains sunny, rising to 33 degrees Celsius in the afternoon. And of course, there's no chance of humidity, so maybe no chance of rain as well. And evening, there is a sharp decrease to 24 degrees Celsius, and then the weather becomes clear, about 9 degrees Celsius drop. That's whooping. And overnight, it will also drop much further to 19 degrees Celsius, and then the weather will become very clear in Kano Municipal today. All
right, we'll take this one from Cross River, Calabar. This morning, weather right there will be around 25 degrees Celsius. And later in the morning, it will rise to 29 degrees Celsius, while it is cloudy, humidity at 11%. And by afternoon, it will be around 32 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, and humidity is expected to be around 14%. In the evening, weather will drop to 26 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, humidity at 12%, and overnight, it will drop further to 25 degrees Celsius and cloudy right there in Cross River, Calabar today.
And I'll still retain my position in the north. Kaduna particularly is where I would stand today at 19 degrees Celsius. The weather is sunny across board. And in the morning, it starts with 27 degrees Celsius, also expected to be very sunny right there. And then there's also a further increase to 34 degrees Celsius, also expected to be sunny at 0% humidity, which signifies that there might not be rain at all in Kaduna today. And evening, there's a sharp drop to 25 degrees Celsius, and then the weather will become clear. And overnight, it drops much further by 5 degrees Celsius to 20 degrees Celsius, and it will remain clear in Kaduna today.
All right, I think that will be all we can take on weather reports this morning. So thank you for being a part of the show so far. Do all to link up with us on all socials: Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X, formerly Twitter, at Dominion Cast. You can watch us live on our website at www.dominion.org.ng, dominion.org.ng. Do all to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook pages and at Dominion Broadcast. All right, let's go on a quick break. When we return, we'll take the news. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome to Daybreak News on Dominion Television. My name is Anolu Akpo Ido. We start with by-elections, where President Bola Tinubu has congratulated the winners of Saturday's elections in the Federal Capital Territory, as well as the by-elections in Kano and Rivers State. The president urged the elected officials to serve with humility, patriotism, and dedication, describing their mandate as a sacred trust. He also commended the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and the leadership of the All Progressives Congress, APC, for the victories recorded at the polls. Tinubu praised the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, security agencies, and voters for the peaceful conduct of the elections, noting that the exercise strengthens Nigeria's democratic institutions. INEC conducted chairmanship and councillorship elections across the 6 area councils of the FCT, alongside by-elections in parts of Rivers State. The National Assembly has said the Electoral Act 2026 introduces key reforms ahead of the 2027 general elections. Senate Leader Okpeyemi Bamidele said the law followed 2 years of consultations with stakeholders, including INEC and the Office of the Attorney General. President Bola Tinubu has signed the bill into law, and the act makes the use of BVAS mandatory for voter accreditation and requires electronic transmission of results to INEC's results viewing portal. It also grants INEC financial autonomy, mandates digital party membership registers, and prescribes stricter penalties for electoral offences. And now in Oyo State, the Oyo State Real Properties Protection Law Agency has warned residents against using force to settle land disputes. The agency said self-help in reclaiming property is a criminal offence punishable under the law. In a statement issued by the Commissioner for Information, Prince Dotun Oyelade, the chairman of the agency, Justice Olajumoke Aiki, said individuals with land disputes must seek lawful redress instead of taking matters into their own hands. She stressed that no individual or group is above the law in the state's ongoing crackdown on land grabbing. The management of Oyo State College of Nursing, Eleyele Ibadan, has dismissed reports of a kidnapping incident at Kishi campus. In a statement issued, the provost, Dr. Bonjubola Obolabi, described the report as false and misleading. She said a thorough internal review and checks with security personnel confirmed that no kidnapping occurred on the campus. The management assured parents, students, and the public that the institution remains safe, stressing that the security of staff and students is top priority. And in business, the World Bank is set to approve a $500 million loan to Nigeria next month to boost agricultural productivity and strengthen key value chains across selected states. According to project documents, the facility, expected to be approved on March 30, 2026, will be fully financed by the International Development Association, the World Bank's concessional lending arm. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, alongside participating state governments, will implement the project. The initiative aims to increase smallholder productivity, improve input markets, and enhance policy frameworks to attract private investment while addressing food and nutrition insecurity. The planned loan comes as Nigeria's external debt continues to rise, with the World Bank Group accounting for a significant share of the country's $46.9 billion external debt stock as of mid-2025. In our talking sports, Alex Iwobi scored and provided an assist as Fulham beat Sunderland 3-1 at the Stadium of Light in Sunday's Premier League clash. Iwobi set up Raul Jimenez for the opener before the Mexican added a second from the penalty spot after Calvin Bassey was fouled, with the decision confirmed by VAR. Sunderland pulled one back through Enzo Lefi from the spot after a Ryan Sessegnon in challenge. But Iwobi sealed the win with Fulham's third on the counter-back. Calvin Bassey was also in action while Samuel Chukwueze missed the game due to injury. The victory ends Fulham's 3-match losing streak and lifts them to 10th place on the table. And that's about it. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and X at Dominion Cast. And as Daybreak News, I am Anolu Akpo Ido. Thank you for watching. Well, Progressives Congress APC wins big in the FCT, but not just FCT actually. There's Kano, there's Rivers, and there's Ogun. Of course, that's talking about showing strength. I mean, some papers have put it that way. This one, the APC shows strength across the board, and we are seeing, is that an allegory that is going to play out come 2027? There's been questions and counter questions about if this is going to be the case for the elections, especially for every other party, if PDP will be contending strongly and be, showing their strength and throwing their strength around. But perhaps we see, maybe they say time will tell. Of course, welcome to this segment of newspaper headlines analysis, where we check into the print and bring the stories that are making the rounds across the nation and bring them on the front burner so we can have the conversation. This morning would be usual because we'd have that conversation right here this morning to talk about some of the stories that are making the rounds. Of course, breaking, as you might want to see perhaps on the screen this morning. Perhaps I'll start with Nigerian Tribune newspaper. And on the front page, the big caption is about Electoral Act. And I know everybody's waiting for what will be the outcome. What has changed the new law? That's exactly the conversation right there. That's coming from the Senate leader explaining that mandatory deployment of beavers for voter accreditation, that's one. If I say one, so you take it, check. It says that creation of dedicated fund for INEC, check. Abolition of indirect primaries, check. Creation of digital membership registered by political parties, check. And 2-year jail term for REC who withholds vital documents, also check. And the last check will be upward review of campaign funds for elective officers. That's check. And that's exactly the case on Nigerian Tribune newspaper. The front burner, or perhaps the caption, the biggest caption on that newspaper is saying what has changed in the new law. And of course, we've seen that. We'll keep tabs on this and see how it will play out come 2027, which everybody is especially waiting for to have those come 2027, because that's exactly when that will come to bear. Now, APC shows strength, wins big in FCT, Kano, Rivers, Ogun. That's also one thing to look out for. APC wins 5 area councils in FCT. PDP wins just 1. PDP says voter apathy, protest against APC's misrule. An outcome of elections, endorsement of Tinubu, APC chairman, saying that because we have won, that's due to Tinubu's power and his influence. Maybe some would argue. But of course, CFCC arrests 20 for suspected electoral fraud in FCT council poll and recovers 13.5 million naira from suspects. That's the money that's supposed to be shared to people who are ready to vote. Perhaps people, but let's say there seems to be a lot of conversations around how we can go about all of this, especially now that it's now the offenses. If you have to commit all of those, maybe electoral offense, there's now a stricter penalty for you, especially as also outlined by the Senate. We hope this will not just be a conversation, but it will be a reality across the state and the country. And of course, I will not be doing this alone this morning. I have Emmanuel Abiola Oladele, an entrepreneur and public affairs analyst, joining me for these conversations and many other conversations we'll be having today. It's good to have you in the studio this morning. Good morning to you.
Morning. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Emmanuel, let's take it one after the other. Pari passu, we take some stories at the federal level and others at maybe state level. But of interest now to a lot of people is what played out in the FCT. There were many questions. In fact, there were parties that had zero. They had 0 on the tally, and then you ask the question, really, but the person that is vying for the council chairman or whatever, does it not have at least just one person who's loyal? Because if you see that case, maybe some would say it's about the big parties, everybody trying to pull their weight around and trying to show what they have capacity for. But some will also say maybe some of them are paying more than the others, because you also understand electoral fraud and all of that. But that is also an allegation not proven by anybody as of now. Of course, 20 people were arrested according to what we have from the security agencies. They arrested 20 people and recovered about 13.5 million. That's a lot of money. Why don't you use that money to, well, that's exactly one of the things we say, because if you have to spend that much, you have to gain the money back, right? So that's the conversation. But what do you make of this? Is this showing what is supposed to happen come 2027? Do you believe APC has that strength to get all of these votes together?
Yeah, APC does. APC is at a vantage point at this particular point in time, and I believe APC is about to make history in Nigerian election cycle. Because look at what just happened. Out of 5, they won 4. That says a lot. They didn't just win 3, they didn't win 2, they won 4. In fact, it was a very slim win for PDP when in the fifth post. And looking at it, if you consider the possibility of what APC might do, look, APC is the leading party. APC is the ruling party. At this point, the opposition has been broken down. Before, the opposition usually used to be PDP. But looking at the way political candidates are migrating or defecting from PDP to other political parties, you see that the opposition party has been weakened. And that played out in FCT election. PDP only won 1, while ADC came second in most other elections. That's, if it had been that APC won the 4, and PDP
APC actually won 5. PDP won 1,
yeah.
So it's about 6.
Okay, 6.
So 5.
5-1. Thank you for that correction. So if APC had won the 5, and PDP came in second, it would have been a great thing. But APC won and ADC was coming second. The only place they won was that was the only way PDP won. That shows a lot that PDP is losing its stronghold. So yeah, it's a likely projection and a strong one for what is about to happen in 2027. And about the money, this 13.5 million naira, it's no new news to us. It's just that it's not gaining limelight. You know, usually we've all heard it, we've all seen it, where voters are being cajoled, voters are being implored to vote for money. But this is like one of the first times where it makes the headlines.
Okay, well, if you have to, well, maybe you're not holding brief for the PDP, but if you have to just prefer a solution to their current crisis come 2027, what would you say PDP should do to also be the other leg that would fight this incumbent?
PDP should make their platform viable. So the people migrating from PDP or defecting from PDP to other political parties are no longer seeing it. The party structure, the leadership structure is breaking down. There's no strong coalition, there's no strong unity in the party. So essentially, they need a proper leadership structure amongst the party. So, because when the leadership structure is in place, other people will follow. It's what the leader says that others do. But when there's factions, this party saying this party saying that, eventually we believe that I won't be able to make headway if the party is broken against each other. So I'll just go elsewhere and find my solution. So they need a proper party leadership structure.
So there were certain moves. Let's talk about the bigger scope of it now, about the Electoral Act. There were certain moves that the Senate came out to say that, in fact, at one of the meetings, I remember Akpabio, the Senate president, was saying that this is the best that has happened to Nigeria in a long time, especially with that move. You know, now they mandated deployment of beavers for voter accreditation mandatorily now. There's no other way. It was just, it has to be beavers or nothing. So they also said the creation of dedicated fund for INEC is also in the works, in the pipeline, and abolition of indirect primaries and creation of digital membership registered by political parties. Some of these things, do you think they are, of course, you have an advantage of maybe the legal system, you understand how it plays out. But let's talk about this on a bigger note now. What's the Senate and of course the House of Reps have come to do to say there's going to be a dual system of transmission? What do you make of it in a general term?
Yeah, generally, it's a good one, right? Like the amendments, the changes they brought are actually good. The beavers is proper because at this time, if you are still using paper, it shows backwardness. So bringing these innovations to the electoral system is actually a good one. However, I would say that they are not doing enough. For example, I was reading something about the transmission, how Nigerian Communication Commission and then telecommunication companies were going back and forth on whether Nigeria can transmit or not electronically. This should be one of the core issues. Although it was part of it, but it became a long debate before it was properly adjusted into the new Electoral Act. So I would say, yeah, those innovations are proper, highly needed, and timelessly. However, we could do more. We could do more in the sense that, for example, look at the terrain of the Nigerian electoral system. Why not start bringing in things like any candidate who is subject to embezzlement investigation should not even be a candidate. So things like that are the things we should move on to now. These innovations they just brought should have happened 4 years ago. 8 years ago. But okay, we understand that it's Nigeria. Yeah, we are doing it this time. But let's go further. Now, there was something the opposition party noted about the funding, the funding cap that was raised. He said it favored the ruling party. Yes. And I've come to notice that every amendment brought to the Electoral Act usually favors the ruling party. But what's the way forward? That's the question we should ask that. What else can we do? We should stop being mediocre with it. It's the mediocre mentality about our electoral act, about so many things in Nigeria affect our progress, affect our development. So you still keep seeing the same thing happen year in, year out. Now, projection is that Tinubu might likely win the next election. That's because the precedent has shown that the ruling party usually is in best position to win. I like to use the US for example. Donald Trump was the president before Joe Biden came in. Donald Trump was the candidate who had the upper hand, but because of the efficient electoral system, he saw that people's opinion became the verdict. That is Joe Biden at his time. Now, again, Joe Biden was supposed to run for a second term too, but people's opinions came to become the verdict and brought in Donald Trump again. Do we see that? And that is not happening in Nigeria. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot of innovations that should come in. So we should celebrate this, but it's not worth it in that big applause.
I think there was something I would like to harp on that you mentioned. That there's, of course, if you have to say it favors the incumbent, it favors the ruling party, and it's not just now. We've had these issues coming up again and again. But let's look at it from maybe a broader view to say, how best can we tackle this? Because I remember that it's possible that, a good number of times the INEC president or the INEC chairman is going to be, nominated by the president. And I think that's one of the ways we can tackle this. If it doesn't have to do that, the executive has maybe a say or an influence in this to say, let there be another independent body that's going to come up with nominations and even ensuring that this kind of person and people are put into chairmanship. Because whoever was put in by me is a if you rub my back, I'll rub yours kind of situation. So maybe that's just also an argument to say, maybe if another person gets to, but looking at from the lens of the legal system, from the lens of law now, how do you think that's possible? Could it be part of the constitution review or something to say, maybe just a bill that can be passed in the Senate chambers to say, this is what we have. We don't want the president to always nominate INEC. How can that play out? Yeah,
let me start by saying that INEC is called Independent National Electoral Commission. See the sarcasm. They call them independent, but they are not independent. Over years, we've seen that they are not independent. However, these changes can occur. And truly, the best way our parastatals, our agencies in the Nigerian system can operate is by being independent. You will not be efficient if someone else comes to tell you, this is what you should do. So yes, the best way forward is that we should have an independent, the INEC should be independent as its name carries. We've also seen the case of ICPC. They also call them independent corporates and other related companies that they are used for the favor of the ruling party. So, like you said, the way forward is independence. However, constitutional amendment might be a far-fetched thing. A bill can be passed, bringing a new structure to the appointment of nominees. We've seen so many loopholes, so many defects in appointment of nominees in different agencies of the government, and they are really affecting the efficiency. For, like I said, ICPC, EFCC, all these parastatals who not necessarily are independent, although they carry the name independent. So, yeah, that's the way forward, independence of the agencies.
All right, let's move very quickly from there. There's one issue bordering on insecurity again. I know I don't like talking about insecurity, but what do we have to do?
Nobody loves.
Because our people are there somewhere with those bandits and all of that, and we have to speak for them, right? So bandits who Kebbi villagers, they're saying, pay us 100 million naira or we will attack you. That's Kebbi. And then the villagers are complaining to say, if bandits have enough guts to write, and they have enough guts to come and to even pick people up in a country that has a chief commander of the army, a country that has, commander-in-chief, like we are rightly put it, and we have, we have structures and systems in place, and we can see that this is not just a one-off thing. It's one too many it has become in the country, and exactly the case again. Now right into Kebbi, if you don't pay us 100 million ransom, we would come and attack you. Do you think this government is really doing enough when it comes to insecurity?
No, they are not. Look, over the years, we've seen it happen over and over again. Look at when the Chibok girls issue happened. I read that they had earlier written that they would come, they would come, they would come. I think they wrote 2 or 3 times. And they came and they abducted those students. That shows depravity and that shows indolence in the part of the Nigerian government. Because looking at this, recently this year, a banditry attack had happened where they had earlier wrote to them that they would come if something was not done. And I think they were not able to pay too. They virtually came, raided the whole city town, and then abducted some people. If this keeps happening, it's as if we have a figurehead agency or security force or commander-in-chief who hear that his people are in pain, his people are the best thing is that they know they will come, but you're not putting measures in place. However, when it's time for election, you now have to disperse police forces all around the nation to ensure that the ballot boxes are secured. What are we doing? People's lives are at stake. The bandits have written to you. The best intelligence you can ever get is that the bandits are coming. But still, you see that they will come and they will perpetrate this evil.
But sorry to probably cut you right there. You mentioned Chibok, but Chibok was not this administration. We've had other administrations in the past that maybe they would say that this was where it started. It started from those administrations, not this administration. But I'm saying that this current administration has done quite a few. For example, maybe involving, maybe directly or indirectly, the United States and some other, maybe Turkey, having bilateral relations with Turkey over security, with countries like Saudi Arabia and a good number of countries as well. UK as well, the British government also made a claim to do 1 or 2 to help the country, Nigeria. Now, some are saying that is a good way to go about it, calling for help when you see that it's beyond you. But I'm still asking again, do you think, compared to every other administration, this administration is better? I'm holding no brief, and I think you are not as well. Yeah. But just to be very balanced, objective about this, do you think this administration has done any better than any other administration?
Okay, what you did was you just broke it into 2. 1, steps to prevent, and 2, those measures you've taken, how much are they translating to effectiveness? So they are taking better steps than the previous administration. They are bringing in mechanism measures, they are buying in more weapons, they are making bilateral agreements, bringing forces and all. Those are measures being taken. But how much are they translating into effective security measures, right? Like I said, okay, you brought this agreement, you are making this, but are we seeing reduction in the impact or reduction in all these attacks?
But maybe it takes time, they would argue.
No, it should not take that much time. If you are fighting a war, you should have a projection that in the next 1 year, these are the things I want to achieve. However, in the first 1 month, see, a war that you win, usually you see it from the start. You start noticing it from the start. Like the Bible says that a king who sees another king coming against him will not first count his measures, his cost, to see whether he can win or not. So it is at the initial stage that you can almost project that something good is coming. So for example, if we have 10 attacks every week, even if we can have 8, it's a good start. But I don't think we have 8. Kwara has been, in this weekend, Kwara was attacked, Benue was attacked, and one other city was attacked, as it has always been. So if we say, yeah, okay, something good might come out, we should have started seeing a bit of it now. But like you also said, maybe we should wait and keep calm. But these people that they're attacking can't keep calm. So enough measures are not in place.
All right. Let me also ask, lastly, let me just exfoliate this much further, but there's just a very slight exfoliation. And that would be that, do you believe or do you trust the presence of the U.S. troops, especially the recently deployed U.S. troops into the country? Do you think this is enough to help us get ahead?
Yeah, it's a bit. It's not enough, but it's a bit. And I would applaud and commend the. I've been condemning them.
If it's not enough, right? Yeah. So what do you think would be enough? If you had to advise the security chambers or security departments in the country, what would you say to them?
What I would say is that we lack proper intelligence system.
How do you mean?
So one of the ways the top tier countries win wars usually is intelligence, information gathering, how do we get information? How do we get when and where to attack? Do you know that when US was bombed in that 9/11 attack, they had intelligence, but they didn't act on it. So that's another problem for us in Nigeria. We do not have enough intelligence gathering system for us to get. We know that people, these bandits, these terrorists are everywhere in Nigeria, but we don't have enough intelligence to pinpoint where they are, what they are planning, and when they plan to effect their plans. Do you get what I'm saying? So the issue is proper intelligence. We have enough apparatus. We have the police force, we have the Nigerian army, we have the NSCDC, we have American troops with us. But the thing lacking, there has been a gap, is the intelligence system. How do you get it? When do you know when they want to attack? These are things you can get. So yeah, that's our problem, major problem.
All right. Just slightly back to Abuja now. There's the narrative, the allegory, the usual conversation is again coming up now, and that's PDP dragging APC to court after 5 council sweep. That's on the Punch newspaper this morning. I just your brief thought on that.
PDP.
They are, filing a lawsuit again. They are taking APC to court that there must have been some malpractices or what have you in the elections. But this is again another thing we've seen before.
Yeah, in fact, I would say if PDP is not taking that action, they don't know what they are doing. Look. Just one example that happened became an headline news. EFCC arrested 20 people for electoral malpractices. That is enough. That is a good ground for you to take an action to court, especially electoral malpractices. So yeah, it's a good one. It's a smart one if they know what they are doing. So yeah.
But perhaps can they win?
If enough evidence are in place,
we've always seen this case, and I'm not sure anybody has won in that kind of suit.
That's the political aspect of it. But if you lay down all the evidence and all, yeah, they can win. We've seen, although not at the presidential level, not at this level, but maybe on small level, we've seen electoral cases being upturned, actually. We've seen governor, look at Rivers State, look at Bayelsa State, there were gubernatorial cases that were taken to court and election petitions that were taken to court and they won. So, yeah, likelihood is there, but I get what you're saying. So it's the political aspect of it. So, yeah, let's see what comes out of it.
Perhaps one day we would have a conversation on how much of politics has entered into the judicial system, because you're also serving there. So we can, maybe one day we'll just try to look out for how best to really get this.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for helping us unpack some of these issues today.
Thank you for having me today.
And of course, we'll now switch focus to the victory with Samson Balogun. After this break, join us again.
A beautiful morning to you and welcome to the big story on Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. In today's hyper-connected world, elections are no longer shaped only by polling units. They are debated, amplified, and sometimes distorted in the digital public square. From trending hashtags to viral projections and influencer commentary, social media has become a parallel battleground during elections. But does social media truly reflect the will of the people, or does it create its own version of reality? Today we examine social media versus reality, how digital reactions shaped the election narratives. Joining us is Honorable Omolaja Olaoye, and I am Samson Balogun. Thank you for joining us on this show. Now let's take a deeper look at what we are looking at this morning. The Abuja election offered a striking contrast between digital perception and electoral reality. Before and during the vote, social media was flooded with projections, early victory claims, and emotional charged commentary. Influencers amplified specific narratives, and trending conversations suggested a clear and sweeping outcome. To many online observers, the results seemed settled. However, as official results emerged from collation centers, the public became more complex. Margins were tighter than expected. Voting patterns did not fully mirror online sentiment. Areas assumed to lean decisively in one direction told a different story at the ballot box. All this revealed is simple but profound. Social media often amplifies the loudest voices, not necessarily the majority voice. Digital momentum does not automatically translate to voter turnout. Hashtags are not ballots. Algorithms reward engagement, and engagement thrives on emotion. That intensity can create the perception of a political wave, even when electorate on the ground is more measured and diverse in opinion. So, in Abuja, the media noise shaped expectations. The eventual outcome reminded us that elections are decided at the polling unit, not on timelines. This raises important questions. Is social media strengthening democracy or distorting perception? Are digital narratives informing voters or trapping them in echo chambers? And how should political actors engage responsibly in the new media era? These and more we'll be looking at this morning. But of course, there will be a focus on the election that was held on Saturday in Abuja. That's something really important we'll talk about this morning. But then, Honorable Omolaja Olaoye is with me in the studio this morning. With him, we'll be making sense of what happened in Abuja and what social media is doing to political ecosystem in Nigeria. Honorable Omolaja Olaoye, good to have you here.
Good morning to you, Samson. Thanks for having me here today. If you're at home, I say good morning to you, and thanks for listening to us and watching us as well.
You are a member of the APC.
Yeah.
And you can't be said to be just a member. You're a stalwart. You have been there a long time. You have wined and dined with the highs and mighties in the APC. And you have witnessed quite a number of elections, whether with the APC or with other political parties. But definitely, you are well experienced. What happened in Abuja?
It is something that when you are talking about the politics, is well expected. And when you are talking about those who think they have the power of the social media, is another thing entirely. That is why you have to see the prominent one is one of their candidates in the opposition party in Abuja Municipal Area Council, that have been voicing out. So apart from that, like Wiki has said, is well expected, and Abuja has been delivered.
Now, before the election, there were perceptions, there were turnouts during campaigns, rallies. For example, in Amak, Atiku Abubakar was there and campaigned vigorously for the candidate of the ADC. And then Peter Obi was there, campaigned for the candidate of the ADC. But the shocking thing is that when you check the result of that election, you'll be amazed at what really happened. I want to take the result of the election in Hamak, for example, and what this means for the ADC in the next election, and what it means for the PDP too. Because when you look at what really happened and transpired, you will be amazed that PDP won a particular council, which I'm still coming to. I will talk about these councils. But then ADC came second. So does it mean that number of votes does not really translate to how well you are doing in your particular unit?
Yeah. No really doubt about that. Because let's be sincere with ourselves. It's been told, Obi has been told sometimes in the past that structure matter when you are talking about political party. Because when you are talking about the structure, you are talking about those people who are invested their time in it, who are the members, who are card-carrying members. Some of them are the executive part of the party. So these people really count. You can see that many of the votes, somewhere you can see 74, somewhere you can see 100, somewhere you can see 120, somewhere you can see 10, 11. That's for you to know what structure is all about. When you are talking about structure, it's not a fluke. A movement can be a fluke. But when you are talking about the structure, you cannot joke with it.
Now, taking a look at what the victory looks like for the APC. APC won, Joshua Ishaku of the APC won in Buari, and Christopher Mikelangu won in Amak, and a very close margin. And that is Kasim Mohammed of the PDP, who won in Gwagwalada. Samuel Danjuma won in Koje, Nuhu Daniel Kwali won in Kwali, and Abdullahi Umar won in Abaji. These are area councils in Abuja. Does it mean that to an extent PDP still has an influence in Abuja, for example, which used to be their stronghold? They have won Abuja countless times.
Yes, many times they have lost Abuja as well. Because when you are talking about opposition party always win Abuja so many times. It is not about when it is not about when you are there or not. And again, the trend of the politics right now, the way the political the voting pattern is different from the past when you are talking about the rigging or no rigging. Now a lot of people are talking about vote mine, but it's not like before when you are going to see in a particular polling unit you are going to see 1,000 plus or 500 or 600. You can see how little it was during this last election. So now we have to talk about the delivery. The delivery really matter when it comes to this election. Well, some people have seen a kind of view about some people who said even the ADC candidate, nobody knows him. You cannot even pinpoint his area or where he lives in Abuja Municipal Area Council. That it probably is a stranger. But when you are talking about the candidate of APC, is a different ballgame is a different ballgame. And when you are talking about those people who really represented PDP, is the same as well. So now we are going to talk about, we need to observe the delivery capacity of the Minister of FSC right now. Because people talk about how he has made a lot of places that is inhabitable to be an habitable place right now, whereby a lot of people can be able to drive freely. They can, a lot of places has been cleaned in Abuja. A lot of security is now being provided. People still think about that. So really, it is not about when you are making mouth or this and that, but what happened in Abuja last Saturday speak much volume about the capacity
now,
of Wiki.
Let's talk about the voting pattern in Abuja. And 1999, the return to democracy in Nigeria. PDP candidate Olusegun Obasanjo at that time won the FCT with about 60% of the votes, and the opposition AD/APP had won about 40%. This reflected early dominance by the ruling party in the capital. In 2003, PDP again won in the FCT with about 50%. ANPP candidate Muhammadu Buhari got about 38%, and this shows that the PDP retaining a lead, though opposition narrowed the gap. And in 2011, PDP candidate Goodluck Ebele Jonathan secured a clear majority of around 64%. CPC candidate Buhari had about 33%. The FCT remained a strong base for the PDP at that stage. Now, in 2015, APC, Muhammadu Buhari and PDP Jonathan were close in the FCT. APC about 146,000 votes, and PDP had around 157,000 votes. This was the first time opposition APC challenged PDP strongly in Abuja. Of course, they narrowed the margin. Now, in 2019, PDP candidate Atiku Abubakar won the FCT, and APC's Muhammadu Buhari came second. This result showed a return of the FCT to PDP, despite the APC being national ruling party. In 2023, Labour Party, LP, Peter Obi's political party at that time, won overwhelmingly in the FCT with 61% of the votes. And APC's Bola Ahmed Tinubu got 19.8%, and PDP Atiku Abubakar got about 16.1%. And this marked a significant shift compared to earlier elections, with the FCT swinging strongly towards a third-party candidate for the first time in recent Nigerian presidential history. So what I want to say is that in the last 5 elections in Abuja, PDP has been there. They've been so strong. Before we now saw the Labour Party coming to sweep all the votes in the last general elections. So does it mean that, to an extent, PDP has lost its stronghold?
That is the way elections are supposed to be. Sometimes it swings to the left or the right, any other place. It can be able to swing. That is the way the pattern of election should always be. But we have seen, like you said, PDP has already been carried away in FCT Abuja for a very long time. So when it swings now, it should not be a surprise. We must be, the opposition has to sit down and look at where they held. Anywhere they held, they must be able to close the gap. That is what they need. But for now, because of the election that happened in Abuja, they have carried majority of have carried the day at the end of the day. But mind you, a lot of people who are not really from Abuja are in Abuja. Abuja is a central place where people from diverse ethnic groups can come there. But we all know, predominantly, a lot of people from the South and Southeast are there because they own Abuja. No doubt about that. That is why you can be able to record that kind of massive election during Jonathan time because they really give him support.
Okay, Honorable Mala Jaolai, kindly hold your thought. We'll go on a short break now. When we return, we'll talk about people who have reacted to what we currently see now as the election results in Abuja. Let's go on a quick break. We'll be back. All right, welcome back from that short break. The show is still Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television, your channel of choice. Now we've been talking about the Abuja municipal elections. The result is out. It is 5-1. And APC has 5, PDP has 1. The ADC, as many votes as they gathered, has no seats in Abuja as we speak. But then people have reacted. And part of those who have reacted to this election, there are people, pressure groups, civil society organizations, and of course some parties, particularly the African Democratic Congress ADC, accused him of direct interference by visiting multiple polling units during the election. even though he isn't a voter in FCT, and claimed his actions could intimidate voters and affect the process. They also criticized Nyesom Wike that the late-night curfew declared before the election and its impact on voter turnout. Now, let's listen to Nyesom Wike after a brief meeting with the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and then we'll take Honorable Molaja's reaction after that.
I'm going to say it's not good for somebody. You wake up in the morning, you wake up in the afternoon, you wake up, then you just comment without really knowing fully what has happened. It was Mr. President approval that said, look, the movement should be restricted because of security report that people are trying to bring in hoodlums. Mr. President said this is what should happen, not to me. And he did not even read the speech. Just to tell you, busybody, and I'm going to say, it's not everything you must comment. If you must comment, go and find out actually what happened. If you look at it, by the approval of Mr. President, he has said restriction from 8 p.m. on Friday, and that we shall a work-free day, so that they can go back to their various area councils and participate in the electoral process. And this is not the first time, but you see, people who want, I with all due respect, and I've always said so, people like Femi Falana must not always comment just because you want to comment. Comment on something you know about. Comment on something you have facts. You can't just wake up here, somebody say this, without even you verifying, investigating, before you make comment. That's not the way it is. It's not a popularity show. It's not a popularity show. And people like Femi should sometimes calm down and investigate this thing they said. Is it correct? It's not correct. I'm a minister working under the president, and the president gave approval. So I did not impose coffee. President has power to say, look, from social time to social time, that should not be based on intelligence and security reports.
All right, welcome back from that short break. The show is still Daybreak Live, and Honorable Olajola is still here. Nyesom Wike is saying, whatever it is you saw in Abuja was not my doing. It was President's approval. But some people have knocked Nyesom Wike for the fact that there was no movement between a particular period of time in Abuja, and some said it affected the turnout of voters. Can that be true?
It is going to affect turnout of voter, of course, and in order to not to breach the security, protocol, it is normal during the election to have a kind of restricted movement in order to forestall breakdown of law and order, and this is well expected. Even a lot of people that doesn't even have voters card will come out, or they can come to polling unit and wanted to influence election. So when you are talking about the curfew, that is a way to curtail any bad thing that can happen. This kind of election is strategic. Let's be sincere with ourselves. We have seen about 2 or 3 PDP members that have stepped down. You must see that Wiki he has this. When you are talking about election, he know how he can be able to, he know how to deliver, and he has done it. And mind you, when you see people that complain, some people gave kudos to FCT Minister Nyesom because of what he has done. A lot of roads have been tarred. A lot of places has been exposed. A lot of places has been motorable right now. So based on what he has done in Abuja, his achievement, I think that is what influenced this particular election.
Now, let's talk about social media and reality. People have made comments about the fact that, a particular candidate was making waves on social media. But unfortunately, when the results came out, it's not the candidate who has gathered more votes. So what would you say? Was that a miscarriage of justice when it comes to, what the votes eventually said? Or probably there was a little bit of, the election had some skirmishes, one way or the other.
When you are we must realize one thing, that a lot of voters doesn't have access to social media. It is easy because you can see that particular man you are talking about the one that is in Amak, he is somebody that you can see that he is like activist. And a lot of these people who are on social media doesn't have voters card. They don't belong to any political party. A lot of them are just accidental politicians. They saw the system.
But they have a movement. And the movement is expected to show in the pattern of results we're going to see. But unfortunately, it's not like that.
Movement can be deceptive. Movement sometimes can be a fluke.
Are you saying those who were part of that movement did not come out to vote?
Many times, because many of them doesn't have a voter's card. Let me sincere with yourself.
And then how do you agitate for correction in the voting pattern when you are not a voter?
When you are not a voter, that is what I'm saying. A lot of them, you can imagine, some people said, despite the fact that they went to court, they said that the 1922-23 election is not valid. They said they were rigged out with the kind of vote they have everywhere in Nigeria. And the vote they have, it is sectional. It belongs to certain region. It doesn't cut across, according to the Constitution said. Because the Constitution doesn't want us to be here biased. You are talking about people in the north. That is why former President Muhammadu Buhari said that a lot of youth are lazy. And it doesn't mean generality of the youth. He was talking about his people that doesn't go to school. A lot of them are not educated. So they can be doing unskilled job. But who takes it up? It wasn't the northerners he was talking about. It was people from the south who he has even been praising, and he want the people, the northern youth, to be the reflection of the south. And those people in the south are the one that is complaining on social media that he was saying that they are lazy. He was saying that they are lazy, and it wasn't like that. So let's be sincere with ourselves. This particular election has reflected what Wiki has done in Abuja.
So to what extent do influencers and politically aligned content creators shape public perceptions when it comes to elections? Do they mislead or eventually have an influence on the election?
They mislead the law.
So they don't have an influence whatsoever?
I am not saying they don't have an influence. Social media is the best way to sell your candidate. But at the end of the day, you must know something for sure, that it is not only social media. You have to sacrifice your time, you have to sacrifice your energy, you must be able to register as a political, just try and get your voter's card. A lot of these people doesn't have voter's card. This is what is happening. A lot of them were forced to have national identity number because probably they want to use it for bank or any other thing. Many of them doesn't want to have it.
So do you think urban voters in Abuja are usually more influenced by digital campaigns than grassroots mobilization?
Even the problem is with the urban. The voter registration is with the urban. When you get to a lot of rural area, a lot of them register for, because they have time, they can be able to do. You see a lot of elite that doesn't even have voters card.
Now,
despite the fact that they expose.
Talking about elites, let's talk about the voting pattern in Amak itself, which is the major Abuja municipal. Senator Ireti Kingibe, also, she voted in a polling unit. Let's see the result of the polling, Senator Ireti Kingibe's polling unit. It was there. Just 7 people voted. And that shows a lot about mobilization. So if a sitting senator cannot mobilize in a polling unit, what exactly does it mean for Nigerian voters in the future? Now, APC in that polling unit, ADC in that polling unit had just 2 votes. And of course, APC also had a certain amount of votes, I think 2. Then the rest, APC had 3, and the rest is won for PDP, 1 for SDP, total votes equals to 7. And that is the polling unit of a sitting senator.
That is how it starts. It happens in when we did by-election in Ibadan North as well. When you see a place like Buruja that is a very posh area that belongs to the elite, you can see them having about 3 or 4
So
votes.
Are the elites major contributors to the leadership crisis we have in the country?
They are the major contributors to the leadership crisis we are having. They are the one that is going to be taking the shot. They are the one that is going to be taking or even what belongs to the masses. That is the sad part of it. When you can go to a place like Malete or Idiare and you see massive vote or Bere, And when you get to a lot of posh
Bodija.
area, you are so surprised that these people doesn't even want to be concerned about what is happening about Nigeria. But when it's come to economy, when you are talking about inflation, you are talking about inflation, you are talking about foreign exchange, they are the one that's going to be making all the noises.
So, talking about electoral influence, if digital campaigns cannot mobilize the so-called elites, then where do we draw the lines between free speech and miscommunication and misinformation when it comes to electoral campaigns?
There is no.
Should that be a stricter?
You can't, because the freedom of speech is always there. But now, with the electoral reform, what do you say?
How about freedom after speech?
Yes, no doubt about that. That's what I'm saying. But
El-Rufai was free to speak, but then after he spoke, he's in DSS custody. He's been here and there.
There are limitations to what you can be able to say if it's not going to generate any kind of problem within the polity. There are some words you say that is going to override the polity. And we are talking about the freedom of speech. We are not talking about lying against somebody. Because by the time you lie, if you get to the court of law, if you do that, that is going to be turned to something else. So you are going to be penalized for that. You must be able to, there should be freedom of speech, but whatever you say, you must be able to back it up.
So managing,
that is when,
managing public expectation is something that is really important for an electoral body to do. Now, did INEC do enough, I mean, with other relevant institutions, to counter misinformation? Because right now, the reason you would say an election was rigged is because you had a perception before the election, which happens not to be so after the election. So, did INEC do enough, and some other relevant bodies?
I believe INEC has done enough. If you want to believe, if you want to say electoral rigging, or you have a dispute when it comes to election, it is not the work of INEC to do that. It is the work of the.
So, are you saying some people are being mischievous?
No doubt about that. And mind you, there was a situation that happened sometimes. The first time of Governor Adeleke, when he came in, there was a dispute about 2,000 votes that is not well recorded in a place like probably Olorun Shogo, and it was corrected when they are doing the collation, during the collation in the state, and they rectify it. But any other error that might happen, you have to put it in the court of law. That is why the law is there. And when you are talking about mathematics, 2 plus 2 will be 4. 2 plus 2 cannot be 6, cannot be 3. That is why you have auditing. So and again, even if you want to do the manual counting, you can be given all the ballot papers were there in the INEC, in which is you can use it. They will allow you to go and count it and tally, see whether it tally with what has been registered. So any misinformation, it is not the job of INEC to be able to correct it, because freedom of speech is there. But when you say something that is going to be very toxic to the society or override the polity, you are going to defend yourself. That is why we have DSS.
Okay, now let's talk about the fact that we now have political parties who are really investing in what you call social media. The Labour Party, the ADC, they have made some use of social media. I don't want to say if it is good or the other way around. But then, do you think the opposition are investing in social media optics rather than grassroots mobilization? Do you think they are doing too much of social
I think
media
they need both. I think they need both. What this president is doing, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is that he's been able to defend himself through different freedom channels. Whether you are talking about social media, whether you are talking about television houses, whether you are talking about radio station houses, all these media houses are there. They are defending him, and they can be able to explain some things that is not, it is not well explicit or well seen like it should be by the society. They are doing the reflection. That is why he is contacting a lot of them and say, you must say what you see, how this economy is. We are all here. How the Emir of Kano can be able, he will say what economics is all about. He will say what you see. Anything that is wrong, he's going to say it. And he have said it so many times that he's not campaigning for Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, but he is being able to express himself according to what that we are progressing economically.
Okay, now, just before we go, if you could redesign how political communication happens during and after elections, what would you change?
I would just all I would say is that all those people who are making mouth at the in different on different media platform, they must be able to register. With what we have, the changes we have had now in the Electoral Act shows that it's people that the politician needed. It is not certain people who are going to be deciding our fate before they even come to the election. Why not start from internet democracy from different political party? That is what I would like to change. And the misinformation by the people, we have had cyber crime and law that is going to be able to deal with it.
Okay, Honorable Mala Jaolagi, thank you for joining us on this show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
It has been a wonderful session with you. The Abuja experience reminds us that while social media is powerful, it is not the ballot box. Digital platforms have expanded civic engagement and political participation, but they have also accelerated speculations and amplified emotions. The task before us is balance, using digital platforms to inform, not mislead. My appreciation to Honorable Mola Jaulawi for sharing his perspective on the important issue. This has been The Big Story on Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. Samson Balogun is my name. Stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, democracy is decided in reality, not online. Good morning to you. Up next is Trend Watch. All right, welcome back from that short break. The show is still Daybreak Live right here on Dominion Television, your channel of choice, where inspiration meets entertainment. And Uluwako Ido is back in the studio with me, and together we'll be making sense of what's trending on Trend Watch this morning.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest trends you find on the papers today is the FCT elections, APC showing their strength, claiming 5 out of 6, and then PDP having just 1. There were other parties, I mean, I'm sorry, but I saw 0 on the tally, and I was like, okay, so does this person not have at least one person that can vote for you in these council elections. But it's still the same story.
Probably they had no polling agent.
No polling
I
agent
mean,
at all.
if you, I want to believe that the first person that votes for you is a polling agent, right? So does it mean, you see, again, that's why, you see, structure is no scam. When they say you have no structure, I mean, it's not for you to react, I mean, be angry about it. All you have to do is to look inward. How many people do you have in social polling units? I mean, that you are sure that
The
by the
numerical
next election,
strength at different locations.
at different
and,
locations. Yeah, you can be so strong on social media and still be so weak at your polling, even in your own polling unit. We just showed Senator Reti Kingibe's polling unit. Just 7 people voted. Out of the 7 people, 2 was for the ADC, 3 was for PDP, SDP had 1, and then another political party also had 1. So it shows, I think PDP too. PDP also had 1. And that's 7. That was all they had in that polling unit. So it was as bad as that. And just like Honorable Mola Jaulawi said, I'm going to echo his sentiments this morning. You see, the problem we have always had is the elite, right? People who you would averagely think should know better. People who you would averagely want to believe that, you know, when it comes to elections, they will be at the forefront because they know what change really means, right? They should be the ones speaking up for the people who you would say, oh, they don't really know much. But unfortunately, on election days, they fill up their generator tank. I mean, they are on social media, surfing the net. They are checking the results, even in their own. They are calling people in their own polling unit to know what's going on there, but they are not there. I've seen situations, especially during the Ibadan North by-election. People were at the polling unit, but they were not voting. You'll be shocked.
What were they waiting for?
They were just there, doing absolutely nothing. They turned themselves to observers. And that is the set of people that want change. They want a new president. They want the new member of House of Rep. They want a new member of House of Assembly. But they are not there to make the changes.
But speaking of change now, there was something that happened. Some people were supposed to give change to some people, and they were caught by the EFCC.
Yeah,
That's exactly the
we are
big
still
story.
talking about change. Yeah, anyway.
You know, those ones wanted change, but they want change for something else. You know, EFCC arrests 20 suspects for vote buying in FCT council elections, recovers 17.2 million. According to some factions have said it's 13 points. So whatever the case is, 17 or 13 million, there is a lot of money. But who is bankrolling that? That's exactly the question people are asking.
That's something you will not hear from anybody.
So if you say that we caught some people, who are they working for? We need that as well. You can't just say you got 20
APC
people.
Party agent? Was it PDP?
Are they working for
was it
God? Are they
ADC?
working for? Maybe they belong to God Party.
I think
that's why you cannot name the
only
party.
reason no one has mentioned that is because you know, it's quite shady. All right, and you know, we'll continue. See, vote buying will not end in Nigeria, at least not anytime soon. Politics is now a lucrative business, and everyone out there with some money kept in their bank account wants to invest. Let me come in, let me buy people over, win an election, make my money back, make triple or you know, in multiple folds, and then I reinvest the next time. That is why you see members of House of Assembly or House of Reps in some places. One of them was being called out over the week, I think in Oyo State, that since you won an election, we have not seen you. They will go away for 3 years. The 4th year, they are back. They are investing. They are giving you monies. I mean, they are visiting social groups, you know, giving them monies, giving them grinding machines, and you know, foundations. And the question is, in the first place, how did we get to that place where members of House of Assembly and members of House of Rep will have to do constituency projects, right? That happened and was introduced during the era of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, former president. And what was being done is to appease the members of House of Rep. I mean, let's give them a little bit of a sense of belonging and give them a little bit of power so that they can support us in doing some of these things that would not really be able to get away with in the first place. Now see where we are, right? An average lawmaker is not concentrating on lawmaking. Their mates are in the chamber, you know, trying to, you know, make some changes, even though it might not favor the people. Some of them are there doing empowerment, giving grinding machines. I was so sad that there was a governor that, you know, had an empowering program, and then we were seeing shoemaking kits, right? So that is all you can think of your citizens. Some distributed wheelbarrow. Well, if that was given to farmers, it would make sense because it is really useful for them on their farmlands. But how do you give, on a steady basis, give grinding machines to people? On a steady basis, give I mean, these are things that are really not too useful to the people. How about you bring all these monies together and fix electricity? You'll be shocked that about 50% of people you see out there that you think they are jobless, they actually have jobs. Some are welders. Some they have several businesses that requires electricity. But who's going to fix that? Is it the same people that import generators in the country? I'm not shocked when we have things being done the 1950s way in 2025. That's because that's what they want you to see. That's what they want you to believe. They are pushing the narrative. They are brainwashing the people to think it is impossible. Whereas it's a strategy. Weaponizing poverty is a strategy in Nigeria.
It's a strategy.
If you are hungry, definitely by the next election they give you 10,000 naira, you are happy, because you know, especially for people who love to socialize, they know that with 10,000 naira you sit in a bar, you get 2 bottles, and then they give you something chilled and a plate of a plate of soup. You think you are okay, but in the real sense of it, you are not, because
you are
for the next 4 years you will suffer.
Absolutely.
But nobody will want you. Politicians will not give you heads up. But when you say it on these kind of shows, listen to us attentively, because by the next election you will still come back and make the same complaints you made 20 years ago. Must we be the same way in Nigeria?
Don't sell your future. I guess that's the message Samson is trying to share today. Don't sell the future, because if you claim that, I mean, let's take a few comments.
All right.
Any party they belong to should be cancelled for all their winning candidates. That's the Milade Monsuru Lawal.
Okay. Diak Amar Ojuku says, if they are APC members, the investigation is good as dead. EFCC that sworn on national television to deal with Yaya Bello is the same EFCC Nigeria are trusting. I'm going to bed, Jare.
I don't go to bed, Baba. We still have to keep talking about this. Because it's very important that we don't. Of course, Kaliga says, liars, believe EFCC at your own risk. Arrest no name party. APC at work. You know, that's exactly the conversation. Because if you say you've arrested Anu, who is Anu working for? That's another part of the arrest we should mention. Right. Don't just say, I think that's where I would also like to just join friends briefly, to say that EFCC and every security operative that is going to man 2027 elections, we are not just going to expect you to do your job. We are going to count on you to do your job and do it well, to ensure that we have a free, fair, and credible election. Because it's not just the work of INEC or the work of political parties, it's also the work of everybody. It's a concerted and concentrated effort by everybody that will make it better. And my name is Anolu Akpoido, and this is where we draw the curtains on this particular edition of Daybreak Live today. Thank you for joining us. All
right, Samson Balogun is my name. As we said on this show this morning, vote buying is an influence on a bad democracy. And we'll continue to have this kind of democracy if we continue to receive money from, of course, our politicians. Until tomorrow, same host, same station. Samson Balogun is my name.